Alright, Shalom. First of all, I want to start this lesson off by giving all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to all the sincere Akwath, which are the sincere sisters. And Shalom to the scattered Israelites of the hopeful elect, who are amongst these heathen nations and look like these heathen nations. Now this is going to be a quick lesson through the Spirit, just based on this California Kimberly-Clark warehouse fire that happened recently. So through the Spirit, I'm going to read some of this article, get some precepts, and Lord's will, we are edified. This video appears to show California Kimberly-Clark warehouse fire suspect starting blaze, saying, "Should have paid us more." It says a disturbing social media video posted by someone believed to be the Ontario warehouse fire suspect shows a person holding a lighter and igniting pallets of toilet paper in the warehouse, saying, "Should have paid us more," as flames erupted. Highland resident Shamel Abdul Karim was arrested. Abdul Karim was arrested by police on multiple felony arson-related charges for the massive fire that destroyed the 1.2 million square foot building on Tuesday. The Facebook video post shows the start of the fire, with flames melting through the plastic wrapping of Scott toilet paper cases. Abdul Karim, 29, has been identified as an employee of NFI Industries, which operates the Ontario warehouse site as a distribution center for Kimberly-Clark, whose portfolio of brands includes Huggies, Kleenex, Scott, Kotex, Cottonelle, and more. Said all you had to do was pay us enough to live, a person says in the video, walking through the warehouse, igniting pallets, saying, "There goes your inventory." And that is the mindset of a lot of people, whether it be out there in Canada or here in the US or in other parts of the world as well. People are pissed off because the government has all these millions and billions of dollars to spend on nonsense, but yet they can't give that money to their citizens so that their citizens can afford to live. Like, people have to work 2 or 3 jobs just to barely keep a roof over their head. That's ridiculous. You know, gas prices are skyrocketing, grocery prices are skyrocketing. You know, people can't afford to move, you know. They can't afford to get a new home, they can't afford to get a new car, you know. Like, people can barely, you know, take care of their family because the government is screwing them over. And a lot of people, they've hit their limit. And this guy was one of those people. He hit his limit. He got fed up. He couldn't do it anymore. And there's a lot of people who share that same sentiment. You know, there's on TikTok, you know, I was watching, you know, the some videos about the fire, and a lot of people in the comment section of those videos were saying that they understand where the guy was coming from. You know, the government basically wants you to just be a perpetual slave, so they pay you basically nothing so that you just continuously have to work. And there's a lot of people who, they're just tired of that. Once they figured out what it was, and they figured out that the government was screwing them over, a lot of people, they're just pissed off. And things would change if more people had a backbone and stood up to the government. But a lot of people have the mindset of, look, as long as I have a job and I'm getting paid, even though I'm getting paid basically nothing, they're okay with that. Like Elder Malcolm has said, there's a lot of people who have a bend over and take it mindset. They don't care that the government is screwing them over. They're just going along to get along. And that's a slave mentality. That's a weak and broken person mentality. Here it is. You're working 3, and in some cases even 4 jobs, and you can barely pay your bills, pay your rent, buy groceries, take care of your family, and you basically never have a vacation. You can't take any time off because you need all the money you can get. Like that's slavery. Like why would anybody be okay with that? But there's so many people that are so beaten down and broken, and they don't want to ruffle any feathers. So they're just going along with whatever the government gives them, even when it's actually hurting them. And in the comment section of those videos that I watched in regards to this warehouse fire, there were people who were mad at the guy who set that fire because they're like, well, now all of those people who worked there are out of a job because this guy decided to burn down the warehouse. So you have, there's still that division amongst the people. You have the people on one side who understand where that man is coming from, and they share his sentiment of like, hey, these businesses, they need to pay their employees more. Like stop screwing over your employees and making their life more difficult, and they won't react this way. And then you have the people on the other side who are, just beaten down, broken slaves who are just mad because, oh, this $1 billion corporation just lost a lot of their inventory, and now certain people are out of a job. The staff in these warehouses, they're heavily overworked, they're severely underpaid. It's like, in what situation is that good? So that's yet another thing that people are going to be out here clashing on, is the whole livable wage thing. Some people think the government should pay people a livable wage, and then other people are like, well, you should just take what you can get. But for the people who want to be paid a livable wage and are fed up with just getting scraps, there's going to be a lot more of this happening. There's going to be a lot more people burning down warehouses and, burning down whatever business they work at because they're like, screw it, like I'm getting up every day. I don't have any days off, can't go on vacation. I got to slave away at this dead end job, that's not benefiting me in any way. And, people, they can take that, but only for so long. Everybody has a breaking point, and in a nutshell, the man who set this warehouse fire, he hit his. He hit his breaking point. Plain and simple. Luke 12:51. Suppose ye that I am come to give peace on earth, I tell you nay, but rather division. And that's right. And situations like this are only going to cause more division amongst the people. Because you have some people who are just perpetual slaves and they're okay with that. And then you have the people who are not okay with that. You have the go along and get along people, and then you have the people that are like, no, like I need to be able to take care of myself and my family. And I'm not getting paid enough to be able to do that. So now we have a problem. You have the people who have a backbone and you have the people who don't. And like I said, that's good. That's just yet one more thing that is dividing the people against each other. And who knows, this guy doing that and so many people seeing it, it might spark other people to do the same thing. He might have just, unlocked something in a lot of people who are fed up with their job. So we very well could see, an uptick in this type of activity. You never know. We are in the last days. It says 2 Timothy 3:1. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. And that's right. Times full of danger and risk. Dangerous times. Because you do have a lot of people who have that mindset, that have that sentiment of, like, I'm tired of working all of these hours, having to work multiple jobs, and it's still not enough. And then you have, and those people, some of them may have even considered at one point or another doing what this guy finally did. So who knows? Those people who have been on the fence about whether or not they should do something like that, seeing him actually go through with it, that could have sparked something in them, which is going to create a lot of dangerous situations for a lot of people. Because, there's a lot of other people who work these warehouse jobs. There's a lot of people who work at these fast food spots. They're constantly being disrespected by customers, being disrespected by the management, working these crazy hours and making basically nothing in return. Like, hey, there's a lot of people who are right there on the edge. They're right there on the edge of snapping. And this could be what pushes people over the edge. We could start to see a lot more people reacting this way and just burning down wherever they work, because they've hit their limit of how much abuse they're willing to take. So hey, this is why we are supposed to stay circumspect and always be on our watch, because you just never know when the Lord is going to put the spirit on somebody to snap and just let loose, whether it's burning something down or, they leave real quick. They pick up a sword, and you know what the modern day sword is, and they just show up and just air everybody out, you know. And there's nobody to blame for this but the government, because the government is screwing over its citizens. So the more people that start reacting like this, the more it's going to, be taken seriously. So maybe, and now listen, I'm not condemning or condoning it. I'm not saying that it was wrong. I'm not saying that it was right. I'm just saying, like, I understand his mindset, and a lot of people do. So we'll see. But, we are in these last days. So there's a lot of cards on the table, a lot of things that the Lord is going to let happen. So for all you sincere brothers and sisters out there, stay circumspect. Whether you're at work or, out at the store doing this or that. Just stay on your watch, stay on your guard, because you just never know when the Lord is going to put the spirit on one of these employees to just snap. Yeah. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. In closing, I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakakwadash. The water Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, for putting the spirit on me to do this lesson. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are still fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. And shalom to all the sincere Akwath. And shalom to these scattered Israelites amongst these heathen nations who look like these heathens. I hope you all stay strong, stay safe, stay fervent, stay circumspect, stay prayed up, and Adawad Ratzazah. Until next time, shalom.